first round of the 2022 NFL Draft has literally just finished up, and I'm going to go through all 32 picks, give a grade for each of the picks, and give some quick thoughts on all of them. It's been a crazy night so far. Can't wait for tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. Without further ado, let's get into it. Kicking off the draft was the Jacksonville Jaguars with the first overall pick for back-to-back years. They took the edge out of Georgia, Travon Walker. I gave this pick a B+. There's very high upside. If he can meet those expectations and meet his potential, I think he'll be fantastic and arguably the best player in the draft, but that's one of those big ifs. Now, he does pair nicely with Josh Allen, and that could potentially be a lethal duo at the edge rusher position for the Jacksonville Jaguars. With the second overall pick, Aidan Hutchinson, I think I gave it an A. I mean, I think he was essentially the consensus number one guy. A lot of people had the Jaguars taking him, so for the Lions to get Hutchinson at number 2, very solid pick. Really, really high floor, I think. I don't think he's going to bust out. A solid at least 7 to 10 sack guy. Lions fans are going to love him. The Texans, this is the first pick I didn't really like. They took Stingley Jr. This is absolutely a boomer bust pick, so I gave this a C. He's my number 3 cornerback in the draft, so we'll see what happens. He could be fantastic if he plays like he did his rookie year. If not, the value at 3, I just don't know if it's there. Maybe he could be another Jeff Okudah who plays for the Lions. Pick number 4, the New York Jets went Ahmad Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati, the cornerback. I love this pick. He was my number 1 cornerback. I'm giving this an A. Cornerstone type player, absolutely elite, and I think with the Jets, one of their picks later, they really do have a solid edge rushing tandem to force cornerbacks into mistakes, and Gardner can take advantage of that. Pick number 5, the Giants, and they had a fantastic night. At pick number 5, they took Kayvon, the edge out of Oregon. I gave this a B+. I think, again, he has potential through the roof. He may not be the absolutely elite guy that some people think, but overall, I think he's going to be a good rookie, and he's going to be really solid moving forward, could potentially be a cornerstone guy. Obviously, they're hoping for Michael Strahan type impact. I don't know if that will happen, but I think it's a really solid pick, B+ for the New York Giants. Pick number 6, Carolina. Some people thought they'd go quarterback, but they went offensive tackle, Ikem Ekwonu. He fell to their laps. This is an A. This is a perfect situation of needs, meets value, meets talent. I still think the Panthers could possibly trade for Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo. A for the Panthers so far. They keep Ikem Ekwonu in Carolina. Giants, second pick in the first round, 7th overall. They go Neal, offensive tackle from Alabama. This is pretty much the similar thing to what the Panthers just had. This is need meets value meets talent. The Giants need help on the offensive line, whether that's for Daniel Jones moving forward long term. At least for this year, the protection should be better. So I really like this pick, and you could argue that the Giants got the number 1 edge player and the number 1 offensive tackle, depending on how much you like Thibodeau and Neal. Great night for the New York Giants. Let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons at 8 overall. They took Drake London. I gave this a C-. By the way, Neal for the Giants, solid A grade there. But for the Falcons, I gave Drake London, the pick there at 8 overall, a C-. He's my number 4 wide receiver. He has great size. I think he'll be great in jump ball situations, but is he an overall number 1 receiver? I don't know. Obviously, they hope he turns into a DeAndre Hopkins type guy, but we'll see what happens there. Number 9, Seattle, Charles Cross. I gave this a solid B. I think Charles Cross is going to be a good player. Do I think he'll be like a Walter Jones type player for Seattle? I don't know about that, and this is definitely a pick for the future. Drew Lock will not be the long-term answer, or I'd be stunned if he was. But for 2023 and moving forward, I think that sets up a potential rookie quarterback nicely with a franchise left tackle. Now, let's go number 10 overall, the New York Jets. This is maybe the pick that they thought the Jets would trade with the 49ers for Deebo Samuel. That didn't happen. The Deebo Samuel, as of the recording of the video, is still a 49er, but they took wide receiver Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State. I gave this a B+. He's my number 2 wide receiver behind Treylon Burks, who does get picked later in the first round, but overall, he's a do-it-all guy. I love the Zach Wilson to Garrett Wilson combination, and I think he's going to be a really good pick. You add him there with Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, Braxton Berrios. Suddenly, Zach Wilson has a lot of weapons to work with. I think the Jets are moving in the right direction. Number 11 overall, the Saints traded up to take Chris Olave, wide receiver, also from Ohio State. I gave this a C. He was my number 5 wide receiver on the board. Here's the thing. We know that the Saints love their Ohio State players. Of course, their pick of Michael Thomas was a fantastic pick. He's going to be coming back this year. Pair him with Olave, and whether you have Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill or whoever running plays there at quarterback for the Saints, I think they should excel with that kind of talent at wide receiver. Also, the Saints had a really nice pick later on, which we'll talk about. But for that pick there, a solid C for Chris Olave. The Lions, Jameson Williams. Now, this is a pick that it was really hard to grade this, but I actually gave it a B+. Initially, I had it as a B- when I first saw the trade details, but when I actually saw the final details of the trade, loved the trade for Detroit. They actually didn't give up that much, and you get potentially what a lot of people thought was the number 1 wide receiver in the draft, Jameson Williams. Fantastic speed, really solid size. He may not start the season due to an injury, but when you pair him with Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark, suddenly there's some weapons there to work with for Jared Goff or whoever is the long-term answer at quarterback for the Lions. Let's say they take a quarterback in the first round next year. That quarterback is set up nicely with some good weapons there. Yeah, what a fantastic pick. Really, again, I think that's a long-term pick, which I really like, and that's a smart way to go. The Eagles, they traded up, and this is actually a really solid trade, but they took Jordan Davis. Now, here's the thing with Jordan Davis, and I gave this pick a B+. Now, with this pick, they actually moved ahead of Baltimore because I'm sure they were convinced that Baltimore were going to take Jordan Davis. This guy is a freak athlete. He gets to learn from Fletcher Cox for a year or so, just be that absolutely, plug the run. Here's the thing, though. If he can improve his stamina, then I think this could be an A++ pick. But for the time being, we're going to give it a B+. I think a really solid pick there. Let's move on to the Ravens, and they got at pick number 14, Kyle Hamilton. Think about it this, 2 months ago, people thought Kyle Hamilton was a top 5 pick. So you get him at 14, you pair him with Marcus Williams. That's a fantastic pairing right there. A- I gave this grade. Great value. Hamilton and Williams, these are the notes I wrote down at safety. Awesome pairing right there. That Baltimore defense should be really, really solid. Let's move on to the Texans. So the Texans earlier took Derek Stingley, which I was not a huge fan of, but with Kenyon Green, they took Kenyon Green with a 15th overall pick. I gave this a solid B, and I think it's a really just solid pick. You pair him with Laramie Tunsil. So Tunsil at left tackle, Kenyon Green at left guard, and I think for Davis Mills, who was quite impressive in his rookie year, I think that's a really solid pairing. And whether Mills is a long-term answer at quarterback or not, I think, let's say if they go in a different direction next year, then they really do have a solid offensive line to build with, along with weapons like Brandon Cooks. So like the pick, especially more so for the long term. Let's move on to the Washington Commanders. Wide receiver, Jahan Dotson. This is my lowest grade so far, and this is a D. Dotson, not a huge fan of his at this point. Now, if it's at the maybe middle of early second round, I could get on board with it at this point. I think they have a lot of other needs. There's a lot of other fantastic players available, so I wasn't a huge fan of this. Not great value, and plus to me, Treylon Burks is far and away. Well, actually, I don't know about far and away, but he was my number 1 receiver, and he was available at this point, so that's why I'm giving it a D. Chargers, Zion Johnson, I gave this a B-. At guard, it's hard to get super excited about it. I don't know if there's ever like an A+ pick you could take at guard in the first round, but look, you pair him with Rashawn Slater, last year's first round pick. You're protecting Justin Herbert. You're also giving the run game some really great protection there. So Austin Eckler can do his thing. Justin Herbert has protection in the pass game, play action. That offense is going to be electric in LA. Now, we move on to the Tennessee Titans. Now, this is a fantastic pick. They took Treylon Burks. They actually acquired this pick, though, from trading away A.J. Brown. I'm going to have another video out tonight where I talk about that trade, but focusing on this, at 18 overall, you get the number 1 wide receiver, and there was multiple receivers picked ahead of it. I gave this an A+. It is actually the only A+. No, sorry, there's only one other A+ in this first round, but Treylon Burks, fantastic pick, my number 1 wide receiver, and not much else to say about it. A lot of comparisons compare him to an A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel type guy. You get him in the first round for a cheap contract for the next number of years. really solid job there by the Tennessee Titans. Not only that, but they also traded for Robert Woods, who should come back maybe in the middle of the year. Tannehill still has really solid weapons to work with. New Orleans Saints, Trevor Penning, B+. He's the offensive tackle from Northern Iowa. Now, what I noticed here with the New Orleans Saints is they really went, for replacing guys. So, with the New Orleans Saints, bringing in Chris Olave, to me, I think Michael Thomas was a bit of a question mark, but now it sounds like he's definitely coming back. But Trevor Penning, look, you lose Terron Armstead because of salary cap reasons to the Miami Dolphins. Bring in Trevor Penning, bam, there you go, cheap contract for the next few years. And again, let's say with the New Orleans Saints, now I know they don't have a first-round pick in 2023, but let's say if there is another quarterback to look at next offseason, then they could be coming into a great situation with great weapons and a great offensive line. Really solid job with the New Orleans Saints. Steelers, Kenny Pickett, the first and only quarterback taken so far in the NFL draft. I gave this a C+. He's not my number one quarterback. I have Matt Corral number one, and number two I have Malik Willis based on his potential. But look, I get the reasons for it. He went to Pitt. He's probably the most NFL ready. Mitch Trubisky, come on now, you can't really buy into Mitch Trubisky. In my opinion, Kenny Pickett, solid pick, great weapons, and they've built up their offensive line. So I think he's going to a good situation, also with a fantastic defense in Pittsburgh. Gotta breathe. It's Kansas City Chiefs, they traded up, and they actually took Trent McDuffie. I give this an A-. So great value. He replaces Charvarius Ward, who's now with the 49ers. I think they really do need to build that defense, so I like what the Chiefs are doing, getting a Trent McDuffie, again, a top-notch cornerback on a cheap deal. Great move there, and I think he could have easily been picked. I think another team could have easily traded up to take them picks, so great value right there. Packers, Quay Walker, C-. I think, Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean are better prospects than Quay Walker. Who knows how it'll turn out, of course, once they get into the NFL. But I think this pick, the value, I don't know. I mean, if I'm Green Bay, I'm probably picking a wide receiver because for obvious reasons. But they went Quay Walker, so we'll see how it goes. I mean, pair him with Devondre Campbell. Maybe Green Bay is trying to build a really, really good front seven, similar to what the 49ers have. And, you'll see the pick later that the Green Bay Packers have, that they're really potentially trying to do that. Buffalo Bills, pick number 23 overall. They went Kaiir Elam. I gave this an A. I did a video where Kaiir Elam is my second favorite cornerback prospect in the draft. Perfect for this defense. Ton of man-to-man. Love the pick for the Bills. They traded up to get him, and I see why. If he stays healthy, this could be arguably the steal of the first round. Let's now move on to the Dallas Cowboys. Tyler Smith from Tulsa, offensive tackle, might move to guard in the NFL. B-, solid pick, fills a need. Not much else to say about it. It's a solid but not flashy pick by the Dallas Cowboys, but one's, picks that need to be made. And one thing which I do like about what the Cowboys do is they do invest in the offensive line, and I think this is a smart move there to give Dak Prescott some protection, maybe open some holes for Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard, and let the Cowboys offense just keep on rolling. Now, let's move on to the Baltimore Ravens, and they took Tyler Linderbaum with their second pick in the first round. I gave this an A-, and we're talking 25th overall. Great value. Basically, Linderbaum, can't you just imagine him being a Baltimore Raven for the next 10 plus years? And here's the thing with the Ravens, one of my favorite drafts so far. You get Kyle Hamilton, who a month ago was a top 5 pick. Tyler Linderbaum, a month ago, was a top 10 pick. They came away with two of these guys, and they're already a really solid football team. So I think the Ravens did really well. Now, of course, in order to get this pick, they did trade away Hollywood Brown. We'll see if the Ravens maybe will pick a wide receiver to replace him, or what other moves they might have in their sleeve to get some more weapons at the wide receiver position. But overall, those two picks, really, really solid. The Ravens just keep on drafting well. Good for them. The Jets, they traded back up. So remember, the Jets, they took Sauce Gardner earlier. They took Garrett Wilson earlier. They traded back into the first round. Didn't give up a ton of draft picks, or not a ton of draft capital, and they took Jermaine Johnson. This was my only other A+ pick. Steal, absolute steal. If they took Jermaine Johnson at 10 overall, you'd be like, oh, that's a really, really good pick. But they get him at 26. You add in You add in Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson in the first round. The Jets are just killing it. Now, of course, when you have 3 first-round picks, that's likely to happen. But considering what we've seen some other teams do with 3 first-round picks, the Cleveland Browns a number of years ago, I think the Jets have done a lot better, and they just made some really, really good picks. I love what they're doing. The Jags, then they also traded up, and they actually traded up for Devin Lloyd, the linebacker from Utah. I give this a really solid B. He's a very modern type linebacker, not like a big bruising guy like a Ray Willis or a Ray Lewis or a Patrick Willis, more like a Fred Warner, Darius Leonard. I think he could be fantastic, and I think they're looking for him to be potentially a leader in that team. They lost Myles Jack. They're ideally hoping to replace him immediately with Devin Lloyd. The Green Bay Packers, did they take a wide receiver in the first round with their second pick in the first round? Of course they didn't. So Green Bay Packers, 28 overall, went Devontae Wyatt. I actually do give this a B+ simply because of the talent that Devontae Wyatt has. Now, also out of Georgia, so they've got 2 Georgia Bulldogs on their defensive side that they added to the ball. And here's the thing. The Packers, they could have a fantastic defense. And of course, look, every Green Bay Packer fan, like Tom Grassi and all the other Green Bay Packer fans were, I'm sure, hoping for a wide receiver here because they traded away Devontae Adams. They lost MVS. But if your defense is holding teams to lower points, then your offense doesn't necessarily have to excel. Plus, if any quarterback can elevate players around him, it's Aaron Rodgers. You got Sammy Watkins. You got Randall Cobb. You brought back Alan Lazard. You brought back Robert Tonyan. Their weapons aren't awful, we'll put it that way. And maybe, they pair Devontae Wyatt with Kenny Clark, and that could be a fantastic defensive line. Next up, 29 overall, the Patriots, they traded down, but they took Cole Strange from Chattanooga. Cole Strange was the guy I would have liked in the 3rd round. The Patriots took him in the 1st round in Patriots fashion. They buck the trend and they do their own thing. I gave this a D. Not that I think Cole Strange is going to be a bad player, but just the value, and that's the big thing with the draft is trying to find that value. I didn't see it there, so I give it a B, a D, and just not the best value. Chiefs, George Karlaftis, so they add another piece to their defense. I think when you factor in a rotation with Chris Jones, Frank Clark, now George Karlaftis, that defense could go back to being the defense that's very advantageous, that forces quarterbacks into mistakes. And then now you have a cornerback like Trent McDuffie. You have some other players in the secondary that they brought in Justin Reed in free agency who can maybe take advantage of those opportunities when the edge players get after the quarterback, force the quarterback into mistakes. And then of course they have that amazing offense to pair with that defense where they can just put up points. So I think the Chiefs have done really well, added 2 nice pieces to their defense. 31 overall, the Bengals took Daxton Hill, the safety out of Michigan. I love this pick. He's incredibly versatile. He can basically do it all in the secondary. He can also play in the box a little bit. I think their defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo, will have a lot of fun. Just him being like a moving chess piece, and I think it's a really good value there. I think Daxton Hill could have easily gone, I think he was projected to go like middle 1st round. To me, there's a couple of other safeties that I like more, but I think this is a great pick for the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm sure they will look to, make additions, maybe more additions to their offensive line, maybe add some other players to their defensive line. But overall, the Bengals are looking really good as we head into the 2022 season after a very successful free agency for them. And with the final pick in the 1st round, the Minnesota Vikings, after trading down a lot. Look, I don't want to factor in that trade into the grade here. I don't like the trade for Minnesota. They traded down significantly. They traded down basically 20 spots, and they didn't get that much in return. But let's look at the player they took. They took Lewis Seen. I give this a B+. I think the value is also there. I think he also pairs really, really well with Harrison Smith. So Harrison Smith is a little bit older right now, maybe not as fast as he once was. Lewis Seen is a rocket. He hits hard, he flies around everywhere, and that allows Harrison Smith to make those more like intellectual plays. Let him, read the play, and maybe he doesn't have the speed to just cover everything, but that's what Lewis Seen can do. Love the pairing right there. And, again, I didn't love the trade for Minnesota, but they did accumulate a couple of other picks, so I'm not exactly hating it considering the player that they got at 32 overall. That's the 1st round. I gotta breathe, but man, what a crazy night. I'm gonna be doing another video tonight talking about the different trades that have happened in the NFL, and of course the fact that now Deebo Samuel has not been traded as of the recording of this video. It's been a fantastic night so far, and I really can't wait to see what happens tomorrow. Join me at about 30 minutes to an hour before round 2 kicks off for a live stream of rounds 2 and 3. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. The 49ers are scheduled to have 3 picks. We'll see what happens if there are any trades, and considering what happened tonight, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a whole bunch of movement, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. Thank you so much, guys. The NFL Draft, check it out. It's going to be great. Got 2 things to say. The butt counts, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side.